Welcome to SABIFF 2025. I am the founder and director, Ada Marie Bobineau, and this year's festival focuses on action vision, and that's combining vision with action and activism. And we have been doing a host of films throughout the year that tie into that theme, and that will culminate with our festival October 2nd through 5th here in San Antonio, Texas, and online. But for our July film screening that you've just seen, we want to bring in a special guest out of the Chicago area. And we're going to have our Bridgett. We're going to have our board member, Bridgett Scarborough, actually do the interview. And I'm going to skedaddle, get out of here, and then come back toward the end. And she'll tell you all about the project and the filmmaker, and we'll get more into her journey. And here you go. Ladies, welcome. Tonika Lewis Johnson. I'm going to let you ladies take over, and I will see you at the end. Take care.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello, Tonika.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm so happy that you're here with us today. And hello, San Antonians and others across the world, our global audience. Welcome. I would like to introduce our special guest today. So Tonika Lewis Johnson is synonymous with bold, transformative art that inspires fresh, critical thinking about Chicago's history and future. The social justice artist rose to acclaim with her Folded Map project, which visualized and explored Chicago's legacy of segregation by introducing residents who live on the same street but 15 miles apart in racially and economically different neighborhoods, calling them map twins. She is currently spearheading Unblocked Inglewood, an ambitious effort to repair an entire block of homes in her home neighborhood, which was harmed by predatory racist housing practices of the 1950s and 60s. A 2024 Gordon Parks Foundation Fellow, the first Chicago Fellow, Tonika opened her first solo exhibit in February at their gallery in New York. She also released her first book, Don't Go, Stories of Segregation and How to Disrupt It, co-written with Maria Creason. The book reveals how generations of Chicagoans have perpetuated fears about the city's south and west sides by sharing essays of everyday Chicagoans, those who ignored warnings to stay away from don't go neighborhoods, and those who live in these very same neighborhoods, exploring the deeply racist roots of these narratives and their ongoing impact. Welcome, Tonika.
Hi.
And also, I'm so proud to add that me and you graduated from the same school, right? Eyes of Columbia College.
Yes, Colum alums.
Exactly. And we knew each other back then.
Yes, for sure.
So I've been following you through your career. So when Ada actually mentioned that we were talking about action vision, I said, you know what, I know the person that we need to bring on to interview and let people know how they can be active in their communities and show an example of how you can make a difference. So
thank you.
Again, welcome, welcome, welcome.
I
would like to just start out by talking about going back to the beginning, the Folded Map project, which is what actually put you on the map. What was the moment or experience that inspired you to launch the Folded Map project? Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the seed of the idea was always with me, which is what the Folded Map film goes into. But what made me want to actually start working on that idea, quite honestly, it was the 2016 presidential election year. you know, the presidential election year between Obama and Trump, and the horrible narrative about Chicago that was becoming international in real time, was the catalyst for me wanting to do something. Because even though Chicago has been associated with gun violence, it was never as widespread as it was getting in the 2016 presidential election year. Like, after that, it was international.
Right.
And you know, people who were from other countries who'd never heard of or knew about the geography of Chicago, they were just, oh, it's horrible, it's bad, it's like Chirac. It's like, I'm like, what? So that becoming so dominant of a narrative, and then the election of Trump, I was like, okay, you know, I need to do something with the idea I've had. If I don't do it now, then what is the point of the idea? And so it took that presidential election year for me to just want to get the confidence and the purpose of doing a weird art project like that. So that was the original like catalyst, is that okay, the time is now. You know, I can't wait any longer. I've been sitting on this idea since I was, you know, in high school, and now's the time. Like, if you were ever going to do your project, Tonika, this is me talking to myself. I was like, this would be the time to do it. Don't miss out on it. You know, you're 38. You've had this idea. You know exactly how it could be used. You better go. So that's the pep talk I gave myself.
And so the folded map, for those who don't understand, because they're not a Chicago resident, we have somewhat of a unique type of grid system in Chicago. And you want to talk a little bit about how that relates to the folded map?
So Chicago, one of our most amazing, unique urban planning, like notable things is our reticular grid map. And so it is essentially our address system is on a grid that makes it easy for you to find addresses. And it is very unique in the sense that it's not a lot of other cities that have something like this. So it means that we have addresses on the north side of our city and on the south side of our city, which are miles apart, that are similar, because very much like a mathematic grid that we all got exposed to, hopefully in grammar school. You have coordinates and matching points. And so you have addresses that are similar, even though they're in completely different neighborhoods, but they exist on the same street. And so the project uses our grid map, which was really important to help people understand how this history was baked into our built environment. Is that I brought people who live on the same street in racially and economically different neighborhoods together, and to conceptually fold the map. And so the other unique part about the folded map and its relationship with Chicago's grid map is that Chicago has streets that run the full entire length of the city with little interruption. We have many streets like that. And so this project is not only to help people understand how racism and segregation impacts our lives today, but it's also a little geography lesson for anybody who is older than a millennial. I mean, younger than a millennial, because they just use GPS. But yeah, so it's a little geography lesson as well. So that is the foundation of folded map, using Chicago's very unique reticular grid to bring people together.
So essentially, let's take a street like Ashland that runs
Yes.
from the furthest north to the furthest south in Chicago.
Yes.
So you can have somebody who has an address that's 6800 south, and then you can also have a person who has an address that's 6800 north, which means they are 6800 blocks north of the dividing line or 6800 blocks south of the dividing line. And so what you did with the Folded Map Project is you began to kind of highlight how the differences in those communities. If you're 6800 north versus 6800 south, how vastly different those communities are.
Yes.
Tell us about how you began to recognize that. Take us back to before Trump, when this was just in your mind. How did this idea come about? I think the film talked about something, your travels in high school. That's where you begin to notice these differences.
Yeah. So my commute from my predominantly Black, what was categorized as poor neighborhood, my commute from my neighborhood to the neighborhood that my high school was in was really when I started to confirm a lot of the observations. And so in order to commute to high school, I was on public transportation. And so the mode of transportation that I was using, primarily it was the bus, but also our train system. And so you literally ride through Chicago's segregation. Now, mind you, you know, I'm 13 years old, as most Chicagoans during the 90s, when you're just, on the train, more than likely by yourself or with others.
Throw out years, okay? Let's not throw out years.
Yeah, you're on the train and you're going to school, and the reason the age is so important is because what a lot of people don't understand is that a lot of Black Chicagoans, especially in the 90s, between those ages of 13 to 17, a lot of us were commuting outside of our neighborhoods for school. And the reason we were doing that is also systemic, but it was a lot of us. So my story is not unique in that sense. And so the reason that's important is because that particular age group, we were exposed and became aware of a lot of these differences without understanding them, but we knew they existed. And also we came up with ways to disrupt it. We came up with ways to learn how to navigate the system, learn how to get to know certain neighborhoods. We were exposed to these inequities, but we also unconsciously found ways to navigate them. And when you have that is like your teenage experience, it catapults your understanding of the city without you even knowing it way more than adults who are in Chicago, definitely than transplants to Chicago. And so, for me, the commute to high school was when I started to see other neighborhoods and learn that my neighborhood looked differently. And also the kind of high school that I went to also was part of the way in which I knew I was getting to know Chicago better, which was through my friendships, because the high school that I went to was very, very diverse. And that experience definitely influenced and contributed to me wanting to have the idea of bringing people together, because that is what my entire high school experience was. It was, you know, 4 years of asking questions, of getting to know people that I probably would have never met otherwise, me making uh racist offensive statements just like everybody else, because we were just trying to learn about each other, but also the reality of we spent 4 years together. So, the conversations we had with each other as freshmen were very different than what we were having when we were seniors in high school. And also for those of us that stayed in touch with each other throughout college years, we were able to see how that high school experience prepared us in ways that a lot of other people weren't ready for in college. We were already exposed to different cultures. So we definitely had a head start, if you will, with understanding um, how you can relate to other people who have a different lived experience than you, a different background, culture than you, but also how to be firm in your own identity, and so um, all of those elements is kind of what led to me having the seed of the idea for Folded Map. Um, I always knew that I would have loved for my friends I met in high school to have met the friends that I grew up with in Inglewood. And I actually lived on the north side a couple times in my life, and the friends that I met on the north side, I often wish that they could have met my friends that I grew up with in Inglewood. So the idea of map twins was always kind of there, because throughout my whole life, up until I became a full grown adult, I was like, oh, I wish my friends could have met each other. They would like each other. But that wasn't able to happen for the most part, primarily because of geography, stereotypes, and all those other things that parents harbored. So all of that lived experience it plays out in Folded Map. And so I often tell people that Folded Map, as a multimedia art project, is really my life story. It's the observations, it's how I view Chicago. It's just a really abnormal autobiography, if you will.
Yeah, and so what you started to do was you started out taking photos of the different addresses, right, on the different sides of town.
Yeah.
And that's what morphed into this map. You actually bringing people together who live.
Yeah, this little experiment is what I like to call it.
In these different sides of town with the same address, and you call them map twins.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you learned from bringing these residents with similar addresses together. What impact did that have on their lives, on your life, on the community? What was learned through that connection?
Well, for me, I'll start with what I learned. Because to be quite honest, when I started the project, it was to photograph homes that had similar addresses and to show how differently they looked, the investment of the neighborhoods, the maintenance of the homes, and to demonstrate how history has played a role in how these homes look today. And so it was really to kind of be a living evidence of, racism and segregation, it's with us today in this specific way. And when I toyed with the idea of bringing people together, it was really to kind of show that the north side does not care about the south side. that was like what I thought I was going to be demonstrating. Like, you know, you all are in a bubble, you don't care, you don't care because no one tells you how to care about the South Side. They actually tell you to be afraid of it. So I went into the project with that in mind. But what I learned in the process was that isn't true. That there are a lot of people on the north side of Chicago who do care, who want to disrupt segregation, who want to make the city better, but because of segregation and because of the lack of connection they have to the South or the West Side, they don't know how. They don't know how to care. They don't know how to show up properly. They don't know if volunteering is enough. So that's something that I learned. I was like, oh, wow, people do care. I just thought that people in my social network cared. I was like, everybody outside of my social network, I was like, they probably don't even care. But I was proven wrong. They do care. And the other thing that I would say was a major impact was the project in and of itself being a perfect encapsulation of all of these systemic issues in Chicago. And so the project became a tool for different sectors. There's different real estate associations and organizations who use the project to talk about or to help their realtors understand Chicago landscape and how they have to talk about certain neighborhoods, how to talk about neighborhoods in a more equitable way. The City of Chicago Department of Planning and Development have used my project as a reference to demonstrate in real time for people who may not understand or know how these inequities show up in the built environment and affect the economic corridors of certain of Black neighborhoods. I've even had an association, a medical association, use my work to help their students understand the disinvestment, how that contributes to the health disparities. So it really has become a project that is a great tool for people to learn. But the MAP twins, more specifically, it showed them, I think they all have mentioned in the video that people can see as well of the actual MAP twins meeting each other for the first time. It's an hour-long video connected to the project, that the MAP twins all had, you know, various kinds of revelation about, you know, segregation pretty much keeping them from not knowing certain kind of people that they could have had a bond with, or not being exposed to certain neighborhoods. And so the project, I love to call it social justice reality TV, because if you watch the video of the MAP twins meeting each other, talking, being a third party like viewer, it really helps you observe conversations with people who are from completely different neighborhoods, racial backgrounds, try to have what is actually a normal conversation, like, oh, describe where you live, what would you like to see in your neighborhood. It reveals how racism and segregation makes a simple conversation like that awkward. And so I think the project also helps people see themselves in those conversations, because we've all had them, but you've never been able to participate as just like a viewer. Right. And so I think the project has definitely made a impact in that way, of just all around in these various ways being an educational tool. And then also, you know, a lot of the MAP twins have stayed in touch. Now, it was not a requirement when I was doing this experiment for people to stay in touch. I was like, look, y'all don't have to be best friends. I don't expect you to be. Y'all don't even have to talk to each other after this. It's up to you all. But a lot of them stayed in touch in various ways that was convenient for them. Some continue to text each other. Some just remain friends on Facebook and share information and comment. Some actually are damn near family at this point, so the range of how they remain in relationship with each other is different, or varies, but nonetheless they stay connected.
I thought this was a very interesting way to just illustrate some points about the differences about segregation and the differences in communities in Chicago from one side of town to the next. One question that you asked that I thought was excellent in illustrating this, you asked, why did you move into your community? And the people that were on the north end of the spectrum all stated that they had looked at different areas and they just thought that this was the best fit for them. So they settled in this community. And then the people that were on the south end of the spectrum would respond, this is all I could afford.
I know. It just cut right. It just cuts right through it.
Yeah, I mean, that really spoke to me. I said, wow, this is what a difference in just your livelihood, your to be able to say, have a choice of where you want to live versus, well, I have to be here.
Yeah, it really demonstrated how racism and segregation removes choices, removes options. I mean, you have a choice, but you have less options.
Yes.
And to say that and to admit that, and then to say it and admit it to someone who has just told you, oh yeah, my budget was 400, 500,000. It makes it very awkward, but it's the reality. And I think that awkwardness helps bring the point home that it's awkward because it's unfair, and it's unfair because of the history, and this question in and of itself reveals that.
And one last question before we move on to some of your more recent endeavors. What is the reason for this segregation in Chicago? Where does this stem from? Why are we here? How do we get here?
It's simply racism. It's historic racism. And each decade, each century, we can we can trace how it morphed into what we deal with today, but ultimately it's racism. That is the only reason that we have the disparities, the disinvestment, the segregation, and that's kind of what my high school experience allowed me and everyone else who attended that high school before the early 2000s is we were exposed to the diversity that exists in this city, but more importantly, we were exposed to the options of friendships. And that is what segregation has done. It has removed the ease in which you can get to know other people, not only within your race, but outside of your race and outside of your geography. And that is the byproduct of racism. people can't even imagine what the benefits of diversity could be in a city like Chicago because we've never experienced it. And only certain populations have experienced it, like artists and creatives. You know, we got the cheat code because we know it doesn't matter where you're from. If you're a creative, you're going to be interested in another creative who shares the same medium as you. It don't matter where they come from. You like, oh, you make clothes. Oh, you do photography. Oh, when did you learn? How did you learn? What materials do you use? We know what a shared passion, how that can be an inroad to understanding people and learning from each other. But people who aren't creatives, you know, they haven't been exposed to that. And, you know, if you have not been exposed to a diverse environment, you can't even imagine what the benefits of that kind of environment would be. And that is the result of racism and segregation. And it's really as simple as that, you know. So my projects, especially Folded Map, my goal was to help simplify it for people. Like, we don't have to document over and over again the different policies that led to these horrible inequities, because it's all rooted in the same thing. That's why the outcomes are always the same. It's racism. And so, you know, if we can address racism, then we could actually repair a lot of the injustices. So really, it's just it's racism, and it is the anti-Black racism as well.
Yeah, Chicago has been cited as one of the most segregated, if not the most segregated.
Yeah,
cities
because our
in the
segregation
United
never
States.
changed. It never changes. Unlike New York, their segregation changes. Unlike LA, the segregation changes. Ours, it it just deepens. It is literally, actually, it has gotten worse. That's really because the population has grown, and so the segregation is worse. But yeah, that's why we're labeled the most segregated, because we have the largest third major city, and our segregation just stays the same. It ain't budged at all.
Yeah.
Which is really, you know, sad.
So recently, you've kind of moved from mapping out disparities to actually repairing communities. So can you talk to me a little bit about Unblocked Inglewood, which is another current project
Yes.
that you are involved with, correct?
Yes. So Unblocked Inglewood, I call projects that any project that I've done after Folded Map, I call it like the baby or the child of Folded Map, because Folded Map was the foundation, right? It talked about this large systemic issue that this city is dealing with. And all of my other projects are to help people understand the various ways that this segregation impacts all of us. And Folded Map help people understand how segregation plays out geographically, using my neighborhood as one of the primary neighborhoods to show this. But then my other project, Inequity for Sale, aim to help people understand how to go deeper and to help people understand how my neighborhood began to struggle with the issues that people stereotype it for. The poverty, the crime, the low home ownership rate. My Inequity for Sale project aims to help people know that the only reason my neighborhood has the reputation that people know it to have is because of racism by way of predatory housing practices. And so,
And that neighborhood is Inglewood,
yes,
right?
my home neighborhood of Inglewood with an E, not
Which is
Inglewood
a
with an I.
community in Chicago, one of the 77 communities that we have in
Yes.
Chicago. It's one of them, and it's one of the largest ones, correct? Inglewood is a pretty
Yes,
large community.
Greater Inglewood, because Inglewood, we don't separate them like Inglewood, West Inglewood, but technically it's two neighborhoods. But the people who are from Inglewood, we call it all one. So
Right.
Inglewood and West Inglewood together make up the third largest neighborhood in Chicago. It's a very huge neighborhood. And that's also what people don't know about the neighborhood. And if they just knew that one fact, it could help dispel a lot of the stereotypes that they hear on the news. They wouldn't think, oh, the whole neighborhood is horrible, if you actually knew that it's over 6 square miles. Like, clearly the whole neighborhood couldn't be bad. That's a huge chunk. But Inglewood was the primary focus of my Inequity for Sale project. And so that project, I created landmarkers, life-size, real 300-pound concrete base landmarkers for homes, 13 landmarkers for the 600 plus homes that were essentially stolen from aspiring Black homeowners in the 50s and 60s. Because they could not get a federally backed mortgage. They were taken advantage of and given a predatory land sale contract, which is just like a car loan. Essentially, it's like, oh, you got to take care of everything and you paying for it, but you don't own it till the end. But the horrible part about that is a lot of these Black people didn't know that that's what they were given. They were lied to. So my Inequity for Sale project shows the homes in Inglewood today that have that history. And so the landmarker that I created for one of those 600 homes connected me to a descendant of a Black couple that was sold their home on a land sale contract. Because on the landmarkers, I included the names of the aspiring Black homeowners and the year that they were lied to and sold their home on a land sale contract. And this one landmarker connected me to the son of this couple. And that was completely unexpected. But it was also the foundation of my current project, Unblocked Inglewood. The son of this couple is close to 70 years old. And he lives in the home that his parents were eventually able to own. But because of the predatory housing practices of the 50s and 60s, the entire neighborhood has become devalued, meaning that the homes aren't worth anywhere near what they were. And so even though his parents worked hard to own the home that they basically passed down to him, the generational wealth doesn't exist because the house isn't worth anything. The whole point of generational wealth and home ownership is that you pass down a home that has value. Otherwise, you're passing down debt. And so once he told me about all of the home repairs that he wasn't able to afford, because in order to get a loan, a home repair loan, your house has to have value. And if your home repair is half the value of the home, you're not going to get a loan. And so when he told me about all of these repairs that he could not afford, that's when I knew that I wouldn't say tired, but I was getting frustrated with creating a project that could only uplift the harm, and that could not help heal in a more tangible way. And so that is when I wanted to do something to help the descendant. And that's when I started Unblocked Inglewood, which is a home repair program. And it is providing, that's okay. And it is providing free home repairs to everyone who is a homeowner on that one block. And all of the homeowners on that block are close to 70, if not 70 or older. And they are what we would call legacy homeowners. They are the people who are the children of the people who were taken advantage of. but they're the ones that stayed. They're the ones that, if they didn't stay, our whole entire neighborhood would have zero home ownership. So they are the ones that have endured the continued devaluation, and have seen the value of their home decline, but they stayed. And so my Unblocked Inglewood project is a project that's helping them, but not only helping them, but also demonstrating the very unconventional ways that we can heal and and repair what was taken away from people. And so that's the ultimate goal of the project, is to shine a different lens on what reparations could look like.
Now, all of your projects have some type of video documentary. Is that your background? Do you have a background in journalism or film? I know that you mentioned being a creative. Does that play a part in how you put these projects together? How you, because you don't, there's the activist aspect of you, but there's people out here that are activists, but they don't necessarily know how to pull information together and communicate it in a way that you're communicating. So where does that come from? Is that a special skill? Is that a talent?
Yes.
Well, people out here doing the work, but we might not ever hear about them, you know.
I think thank you for asking that, because that's a part of my practice that, you know, if you don't hear me talk about it, you'll think, oh my gosh, her projects, you know, they they get a lot of media coverage, and she has like videos for it. All of that is very intentional, because my background is in journalism. I went to Columbia College for journalism and photography, and really when you study journalism and obviously photography, as well as any creative medium, but specifically journalism, you understand the importance of storytelling, and you specifically get trained in journalism how to make the larger public appreciate or connect with it. It doesn't matter how large of a data point is, you have to always make it specific to them, geographically, personally, whatever. And so that is a skill set that any journalism major would totally understand, how to take large data information and make people interested and make people care and show them how it affects them. And as a result of my primary medium having been photography, it also helped me understand and value the role of film and video, because even as a photographer, even as a journalist, if you will, there is an emotional aspect to reporting that can only be captured in film. And so I knew that there is an emotional part of my projects that I wanted to be translated to the larger public in a very specific way. So I knew it had to be film. And even though my background is not film, with it being photography, I know the importance of film. You know, and a lot of people, the general public, they don't even think about the craftsman part or the skill that people in the not just industry but creatives who do film and storytelling, the power of film. Like, it is the most you know, people don't even understand why they love movies so much, you know.
Right.
It's
They don't understand the psychology behind it.
they don't yes, they don't even understand the psychology behind it, or the way in which it's shared with them, how the communal aspect of it is contributing to it. So there's a lot of beautiful parts of film that I knew was not existing in the current mediums I was operating in. So knowing the limitations of those mediums helps me prioritize the importance of film, which is why I knew that my folded map project, which was, you know, an exhibit, I knew that since it was multimedia, that it could transfer over to being a film. And I knew that it transferring over to film would make it have way more longevity than being a 3-month exhibition at a museum or a gallery. So even though my background is not in film, my other mediums help me know the important role that film plays in the longevity of a piece of work, of enhancing the larger public's connection to an issue. And then also, you know, my mom was a screenwriter. So, you know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she
In your
helped.
blood.
Yeah, she helped. She was one of the founders of Black Screenwriters Association in Chicago. So I was one of those kids that was being dragged all over to these meetings, what I thought was just old people talking about nothing. But really, you know, it's storytelling. So I was exposed to a lot of ways you can tell the same story, but how you could tell the same story very different, you know. And so I knew that I wanted to include that in my artistic practice, primarily because I wanted my projects to help change the horrible narrative of my neighborhood. And I knew that the way in which people were learning this horrible narrative about my neighborhood was the media. And in order to have your work be able to be covered in the media, you have to have the elements that would make a good story. And since I went to school for journalism, I knew, oh, if you have photo, if you have video, if you have people that can talk about your work. So really, when I would do a project, one of the primary reasons it would get covered is because I pretty much prepared the package for the journalists, because I knew what it needed in order for them to consider it and to make it easier for them to do their job. But the media was a tool for me to not only bring awareness to my work, but to disrupt the horrible narrative, not only about my neighborhood, but Black neighborhoods. And so I knew that the more media coverage I got, that it would totally transform the Google search of my neighborhood. And so all of that was due to my journalism background.
Great. Kudos to Columbia College.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. One thing they gonna do, they're gonna connect you with people that's working in the field.
Right.
For sure.
So you have a book out.
Yes.
Don't Go. Tell us about Don't Go. Why is it titled that? How does this connect with the overall story you're trying to tell?
Yes. So since, you know, really at the core, I'm a storyteller, and I wanted my body of work to tell a story. Because I knew once I started doing folded map and it got the warm reception from the larger public, I knew that I was going to continue to do projects. I said, oh, I like this. I'm gonna continue to do it. I was like, if y'all like that idea, I got several of them. and so I call my projects like participatory, because I really love creating space for people to tell their story, which when you think about it, that's journalism right there. Yeah. So this book is an expansion of Folded Map, because Folded Map talks about the segregation, Inequity for Sale talks about the history, Unblocked Inglewood talks about the devaluation and offering an unusual way to repair it through art. But the through line in all of those projects is the stereotypes that were formed about Black neighborhoods because of racism that helped perpetuate segregation. And I knew that I could not do another project without talking about the way in which we perpetuate segregation and redlining today, without even thinking that we do it. For people who are like, oh my gosh, redlining is so bad, I can't believe that we had a government that supported it. Well, we tell people not to go to Black neighborhoods all the time, but we don't think about it as being bad. We don't think about it as being redlining, but it is. Mm-hmm. And so I knew I wanted to create a project to help people understand you're no better. The people who didn't see the harm in redlining, it was because it was so common. Everybody participated in it. It's no different than what we're doing today, telling people that Black neighborhoods are bad. Oh, be careful. You'll watch out. Like it's literally the same thing. It's no different. The only reason that we think it's different is because we're doing it. But 50 years from now, we're going to be like, oh, damn, that was a form of redlining. Yeah, it is. you can't, a business in a Black neighborhood can't get a loan because everybody knows that, oh, that neighborhood's bad. If that neighborhood is considered bad, then the investors are going to say, oh, well, foot traffic is not going to be there. If there is no foot traffic, then you can't create like an economy. And so, no, it is a form of redlining. And so I really wanted to help people understand that. And also for people to just start admitting that they do this, that they say, don't go to the South Side, don't go to the Chicago's West Side. And it doesn't matter what city you're talking about. Any neighborhood in any city that people are told to not go to, more than likely, it's always a Black neighborhood. And so, the primary difference is we hide it through safety. Like, oh, well, we just want people to be safe. Okay, well, you're also not giving people proper information, though. And so it's a problem. And so when I started to do presentations about Folded Map, and I would just ask, not even thinking anything of it, I would just ask the audience, oh, raise your hand if you have been told to not go to the South or West Side. When I started asking that question, and every single time the entire room would raise their hand. I don't care if it was a room full of 30 people in a classroom or 500 people at a conference that I was speaking at. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, this is crazy. Like, okay, I have to do something about this. And so the book is pretty much, my attempt to raise awareness to this very casual way in which we perpetuate redlining Black neighborhoods. And redlining ultimately is labeling a neighborhood not worth investing. And that's literally what you're doing when you say, oh, don't go to that neighborhood. And so this book is a collection of stories from Chicagoans, most white Chicagoans, about where they were, who told them to not go to the South Side, how long they took that advice, what happened when they finally went, and what they learned about themselves and race. And so I wanted to also, in my body of work, create a project where white people could contribute in a way that could help move the conversation forward and not be extractive. And what I mean by that is, when you're talking about segregation and healing it and disrupting it, it can't be a conversation that only Black people are having. It can't be. The conversation can't be segregated, because there's so many Black people who don't even know how, or even understand how, white people don't know certain things are racist. Well, if we know all of the ways in which they get programmed anti-Blackness, then we can actually learn really effective ways to change it. And so I just felt like a space needed to be created where white people can be honest, if they were brave enough to be honest, to share with us how they learn anti-Blackness, because we have a lot we can learn from them. And this to me is the way in which we can learn from them. Like, yeah, just be honest. When did you first learn? What's your first memory of anti-Blackness?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the storytellers share that moment for them. They share all of the ways in which they were unconsciously learning anti-Blackness.
Yes.
And it took them disrupting segregation and going to Black neighborhoods to really start to think about, oh my gosh, I've been lied to, but why was I able to believe the lie for so long? And the book goes into how they get programmed to be scared of Black neighborhoods, quite frankly. And I thought that that was really good information for us to add to the conversation about segregation, because it doesn't do any good for Black people to always talk about how it affects us when there is a flip side. It does affect white people, and one of the ways that it affects them is how they get trained to always be scared of Black people. And if we cannot create the space to talk about that, then we're going to just continue to cycle. And I felt like I wanted, it wasn't, I didn't feel like it should have been a book at first, because I was like, I had never written a book before. And my co-author, Dr. Maria Creason, she was like, this could totally be a book. And I was like, well, I don't know how. I just knew it couldn't be an exhibit. Right. I was like, I don't know what it needs to be, but it can't be an exhibit, because people need to sit with these stories. They need to get mad at it. They need to go back to it. Yes. And so once I started, talking about that, that's when my co-author was like, well, it sounds like it needs to be a book. And so that's what Don't Go is. And for me, it's like the culmination of my body of work that, if I weren't able to create anything beyond this, I would be completely satisfied, because I think those 4 projects, Folded Map, Inequity for Sale, Unblocked Inglewood, and Don't Go, really help tell the story of segregation and race and how it impacts all of us, not just Black people. And that's really what I wanted all of my work to be able to demonstrate, that we all messed up because of this. Mm-hmm. Now, true, it most horribly impacts Black people, but our quality of life, but the psychology of the fear that it places on white people to continue to justify the horrible things they might assume and think about Black people, the constant fear that they have that justifies everything that they do to us, whether it's not wanting us in the neighborhoods, not creating ways to prevent us from moving into their neighborhoods, separating their children from us, killing us. Like, all of that is rooted in fear, which is a very historic and international tactic to discriminate against people. It's not unique to the United States. Like fear is used to other and to discriminate. And so I really want people to use the book to help them understand, you know, how fear is an essential part of hate and racism and segregation, and ultimately to know y'all lives messed up because y'all so scared.
Well, that's what's running our country now. I mean, we are this. That's why your book, your projects, your work, your action vision is so critical, especially during this climate. So I want to applaud you. Yay!
Thank
And
you.
the book is called Don't Go. Where can they find it?
Yeah, this
they
has
can find
been an
it.
awesome conversation. But go ahead. Where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find it online anywhere. You know, I hate to say the one place they can find it, but you can find it there. Barnes and Noble, barnesandnoble.com. Or you can hit up the publisher directly, which is I forgot the name. Why? I forgot the name. Oh my goodness. Either way, you could Google it and then you could choose where you want to purchase it.
And this is
Can they find it on your website? Is it on your website?
Yeah.
Yes, it's on the foldedmapproject.com website. And it also has its own website, which is go to Chicago's South Side, go to ChicagoWestSide.com.
Okay.
Go to ChicagoSouthside.com.
Yep. And go to ChicagoWestSide.com, because you know I could not just say Southside. All my West Side friends would. So it's
I'm gonna put that one up. I'll put that one up.
It's two different websites, but they go to the same site.
Okay, I'm gonna put that one. I'm gonna put Southside.com. I mean, this is critical also for we live on the east side. Our whole festival. You know, I'm born and bred on the east side of San Antonio, and that's one of those first memory of anti-blackness.
Don't go areas.
Right, don't go areas of San Antonio that's been stereotyped. And so I love that first memory of anti-blackness. That is, that's a serious conversation starter. So that is awesome. But I want to thank you, Tonika, and Bridgett. Thank you. This was a wonderful conversation, one that can grow in many communities, as well as we can see what the Folded Map Project has done. It continues to grow and it continues to be a vital tool in our communities, in not only Chicago, but I think it's a good example to spread across the world.
Yeah.
Not the country, but the world. But thank you both. And as we move forward, I want to just remind everybody to continue to keep San Antonio Black International Film Festival on your map for October 2nd through the 5th in San Antonio, Texas. And again, you all continue, both of you. 501c3 my org is Bridgett, and Go Map Project and Folded Map Project. Both of y'all continue your work in Action Vision moving forward. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the amazing interview. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.